Imagine being tested in a way you never expected, your entire character weighed in a single moment, with no warning, no escape. Would you pass? Or would temptation win? Tonight, I'll take you into the story of a millionaire who set a trap for the woman he trusted least, but the outcome broke him in ways he never imagined. And by the end, I promise you, you'll ask yourself the same question he did: what would I have done in her place? Ethan Wallace was a man who had built his empire from nothing. Raised in a small town, he had clawed his way through poverty and hardship, finally creating a tech company that made him one of the wealthiest men in the country. But with wealth came paranoia. Ethan trusted almost no one. Every handshake, every smile, every promise, he measured it against the possibility of betrayal. And though his mansion was filled with employees, drivers, gardeners, chefs, and maids, he always kept a suspicious eye on them, especially Maria, his housemaid. Maria was quiet, humble, and diligent. A widow in her 40s, she had taken the job not because she wanted to work in a millionaire's mansion, but because she had no other choice. Her husband had died in a tragic accident overseas, and she was left to raise her 2 children alone. Every dollar she earned went toward their schooling, rent, and food. She never complained, never lingered, never crossed lines. Yet Ethan, in his cold, guarded way, always wondered, would she steal if given the chance? One evening, his suspicion hardened into a plan. He decided to leave the safe in his study unlocked, filled with stacks of cash and a velvet case holding diamond cufflinks worth a fortune. He wanted to test her. To see whether the woman who dusted his furniture and polished his floors would fall when temptation was placed right in front of her. The next morning, Ethan pretended to leave early for a business trip. But instead of driving away, he stayed hidden in another wing of the mansion, watching the security feed. Hours passed. Maria entered the study, as she always did during her cleaning routine. Ethan leaned forward, heart pounding, eyes glued to the screen. There it was, the safe door, slightly ajar, practically inviting her. Maria paused. She noticed it almost instantly. She set down her cleaning supplies, walked slowly to the safe, and gently touched the handle. Ethan held his breath, anger and satisfaction swirling inside him. This is it, he thought. Now I'll know who she truly is. But what she did next froze him. Maria knelt before the safe, not to take anything, but to whisper a prayer. Lord, give me strength to stay pure in my heart. This is not mine. This is not my test. Her voice cracked, and Ethan could see tears welling in her eyes. She stood, closed the safe door carefully, and placed her cleaning cloth over it as if to shield it from dust and temptation alike. Then, with trembling hands, she picked up her supplies and continued cleaning, her head bowed in quiet dignity. Ethan sat back in his chair, stunned. He had expected greed, maybe hesitation followed by a guilty theft. Instead, he saw a woman fighting a battle he had staged and winning it with more grace and strength than he himself possessed. Suddenly, shame washed over him. How could he have doubted her? How could he, with all his millions, test a woman who had already lost so much in her life yet still chose integrity? That evening, Ethan confronted her. But instead of anger or accusation, his voice broke. Maria, why didn't you take it? You could have. No one would have known. Maria looked at him, confusion in her eyes. Then softly, she said, because what isn't mine will never bring me peace. My children look at me as their example. If I lose my honor, I lose everything. In that moment, Ethan, who had measured life in profit and loss, risk and reward, felt something shatter inside him. Tears welled in his eyes, not because Maria had passed his cruel test, but because she had shown him the kind of wealth he had never owned, integrity, faith, and love. From that day on, Ethan changed. He raised Maria's salary, offered scholarships for her children, and more importantly, he began to open his heart. He realized money could buy protection, power, and comfort, but it could never buy the purity of character Maria carried within her. And so, the man who had once doubted everyone found his greatest teacher in the woman he had least expected. And now, as you hear this story, I'll leave you with the question Ethan himself whispered as he watched Maria close that safe: if the door to temptation stood open before you, what would you do?